everybody. In this video we will talk about lists in Python. Lists are basically sequence that is in order and they can hold a variety of different object data types. They use square brackets and commas to separate objects in list. Example, variable equals to 1, 2, 3. Lists support indexing and slashing. List can be nested too and have a variety of useful methods available to use. Let's open Jupyter Notebook and explore these concepts. Let me first toggle the header so we will have more space to do work. Let's begin by defining a variable and call it myList and set it equal to 1, 2, 3. Okay, so here as you can see that our list is defined using square brackets and we have all the objects inside the list separated with a comma. Okay, so let's continue. We just have created a list of integers, but we can also create a list of mixed data object types. Let me show you an example of this. So as you can see that this list have no problem because lists in Python are flexible with different data type. If we want, we can check the length of a list just like we could check the length of a string. To do this, we can use the len function. Let me show you how. And now it will return the number of elements inside of the list. As mentioned earlier, we can also perform indexing and slashing with list. Now let's say that I want to grab 2, I can just go and use indexing on it. Also we can perform slashing on it. So I just have said here to go from the index position of 0, which is 1, all the way to the end. Now let's create another variable. We can also perform concatenation with it. Execute it. Perfect. Now let's save it because we will need this later. In my earlier videos of string, I mentioned that you cannot do indexing to change something in a string, but you can do that with lists. Let's see an example of it here. Execute it. Now let's call the variable again. Okay, so as you can see that we have changed an element in a string using indexing. Now let me show you a different method we can perform on a string. Before executing it, let me explain what .append method does. So .append method basically appends a new element inside of an existing list. Now let's check out the variable again. Okay, perfect. Now let's try it again. Execute it. Sorry. Execute it. Now let's call the variable again. Okay, nice. Okay, so now we know how to add something to a list. I want to show you a method called pop, which basically removes an item from the end of a list. Remember, for most of these methods, if you don't use parentheses with them, it's going to report back that this is a pop function. If you want to call it, you need to use an open and close parentheses. Now let's call the variable again. As you can see that I have removed the last element of this list, which was 7. Now we can also do indexing with pop. Let me show you how. This will remove the first element, which was 2, from the list. Let's call the variable again. Reverse indexing also works with pop function. Execute it. Now let's call the variable again. Perfect. Also, we have a sort function which we can use to sort elements inside of a list. Let's see an example of it here. Let's start off by creating a variable. Now let's sort it. Now let's call the variable again. Okay, nice. We also have a reverse function. Let's see an example of it here. Let's start off by creating a variable. Now let's use the reverse function. Now let's call the variable again. Okay, perfect. Now that's it for this video. If you have any queries, you can always go to the comment section and ask your doubts there.